Hello and welcome to Draft Countdown. Well, we're almost there. It's less than a week until the NAB AFL draft on the Gold Coast. I'm your host, Mark McGugan, and the man in the chair beside me has followed this crop of players very, very closely throughout the season, and today he's going to talk us through the fourth and final edition of his Phantom Form Guide, ranking his top 30 draft prospects. It's Callum Twomey. Hello, Callum.
Hello, Mark. Good to be here.
Good to have you here. Now, we must reiterate before we get into this that this is not your phantom draft. You haven't matched up these 30 players against the draft order. It's simply a ranking of the best 30 players as you've seen them through your eyes.
Yeah, and you form your own opinions throughout the year, having seen so much under-18 footy. I guess I've been in an opportunity to form my own opinions and see where I rank these players. That's the beauty of recruiting. You get a chance to see where they rank against each other, and I'm sure that this is going to be different to what the clubs read out next Thursday night, but that's the fun of it as well.
Well, your first three editions, we looked at your top 20 players. Today we've extended to 30, so let's kick it off first with numbers 26 to 30. Let's talk us through these guys, Cal.
Yeah, there's a couple of midfielders in there, Mark. There's Darcy Lang, who's got a bit of zip. Patrick Cripps is a big, tall sort of midfielder. Daniel McStay is a key defender. I think he'll be in the top 30 picks next week. And Jonathan Marsh is a little bit speculative. The one I want to take a little bit of a close look at is Malcolm Carpeney. He's a talented small forward and midfielder from South Australia. He averaged 24 disposals for South Australia at the Under-18 Championships, so one of their most consistent players in their Division 1 win. He kicks goals, that's what I like about him. He won the Alan Stewart medal as the best player in Woodville West Torrens Sandford Under-18 Grand Final, so that's the game that's fresh in the recruiters' minds, and that's why he's going to be a top 30 pick next week, I would have thought. A lot of clubs are interested in those sort of range. He plays a little bit like Matthew Stokes, if that's someone you can recognise there. A smaller type, but he does kick goals and quite handy with the ball in possession, so he's one I do like.
Very good. Well, let's move it right along now to the next numbers, which is 21 to 25.
Yep.
Talk us through these.
A couple of talls in here. This is the way I do think it'll pan out next week, with a few talls being picked in the 20 to 30 range. One of them could be Darcy Gardner, perhaps the best key defender in the pool. Jarman Impey's a half-back, half-forward type. Who does run through the midfield occasionally. Luke Dunstan, another inside midfielder, and Jake Kennedy-Harris adds a little bit of spark in there too. Michael Apnes is an interesting one. He's come through this year, a huge improver in 2013 as a ruckman forward. He's a kind of player that I reckon sort of likened to Drew Petrie. I think he's probably going to be a tall forward going forward, more than a ruckman who can pinch it in that ruck sort of spot. He played throughout the year for Vic Metro and Eastern Rangers, played in their premiership, the Eastern Rangers there in the TAC Cup. Recruiters see him as well as a key forward, so I think he's going to be in that 15 to 25 range next week. But he marks well, he's competitive, and in the ruck he uses his body well to sort of create some space and get the tap down. So he's one that's really come on this year, and he's done a lot of good work and fitness work to change his body shape too. So a really competitive, driven sort of individual.
Is he one you could see going a little bit higher than the 22 if there is a club looking for a tall?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the Swans, they are keen on a tall at 15 or 32, their next pick, so he's one that could be in their range, definitely.
Straight through to the next batch now, which is numbers 16 to 20. Kel, what can you tell us about these guys?
There's some exciting types in here. One of them is Billy Hartung. We've heard a lot about him. He's a midfielder who can run and run and just keeps on running. Zach Jones, Nathan Jones' brother, half-back, really come on this year. Matt Crouch, Brad Crouch's brother from the Crows, an inside ball to get at the best in the draft of his type, and Trent Dumont, another inside midfielder. We've got the brothers in this bracket, though.
Isn't it?
Zach Merritt, the brother of Bomber Jackson, is a midfielder half forward. This was his first real year of professional footy. He's been a cricketer in his youth, and the thing I like best about him is his kicking. He's just a beautiful left foot kick. He kicks goals. He's really crafty with the ball. He manages to find space and time. He's rated the quickest decision maker at the NAB AFL draft combine last month, so he's one that you can see it in his game. When he gets a second to think, he makes the right call and hits the right target. So he's one that I really like, and I think he's another one that during the year he was probably on the verge of the top 20 in the form guide. Now he's broken into it, so he's right in that sort of top 20 to 25 picks come next week.
And of course the Bombers at pick 26, and I'm sure Jackson and Zach would love to be reunited there. Maybe based on your rankings he might not get that far.
I wouldn't have thought so, but there's a chance. I mean, because he's a little bit smaller, that's what clubs are wondering. Where does he play at AFL level? Is he going to become a full-time midfielder, or is he just going to be a half-forward, small forward? But if he gets to 26, I think they'd be hard-pressed not to take him, because he adds something to that any team that he plays for.
Through to the top half of the teens now, 11 to 15, Cal.
Yeah, Lewis Taylor, a midfielder there, number 11. I'm a huge rap for Louis. I don't think he'll go this high next week, but he's a really powerful small midfielder. Marcus Bontempelli, he's been one of the most talked about players, as is Cameron McCarthy. A couple of talls there, a little bit raw, both of them. Blake Acres is interesting, and Dom Sheed is a midfielder from WA who's captain WA throughout the championships. A little bit more on Acres though. He might be the mystery of this year's draft, just because he's played so little. He played a lot at the start of the year for West Perth Colts and did really, really well, averaged about 27 disposals through the midfield, playing as that tall, big inside midfielder. Then he hurt his shoulder. He didn't play a lot after that. He played these couple of games for WA, as we see here. He's a marker, we just saw there. He's a big, tall midfielder who can mark above his head, and he loves to float forward and kick goals too. I think he adds something to this draft pool that isn't there, as one of those 190cm midfielders. And you look at the way Freo's built their game over the last couple of years. It's been through tall midfielders, David Mundy, Nathan Fyfe. He's a West Australian. If he got to pick 7, I think he'd be a real contender for that selection for Fremantle. I don't know if he will, but yeah, he's one that I like a lot.
Certainly all the rage at the moment, the tall midfielders. But now we get into the top 10 numbers, 6 to 10, Callum.
This is where the stars really start to shine. Matt Scharenberg, a utility from South Australia, obviously was ranked a little bit higher than this throughout the year. Probably recruiters thought he was the second best player through the championships, so he's dropped a little bit, which is quite interesting. Ben Lennon, a half-forward midfielder, a big fan of his, kicks goals. Kate Kolajasny is there as well, half-back midfielder. Christian Salem and Nathan Freeman. Pretty hard to split, really. A couple of Sandringham Dragons midfielders. Kate Kolajasny is one that's risen hugely this year. A Tasmanian prospect off half-back and through the midfield. What I like best about him is just his pinpoint precision passing. He sets up the play from half-back but can move through the midfield and move up the ground a little bit more as well. So he kicks goals, he likes to win clearances as well. He's a tall, athletic type. You think about someone like, from Tasmania, a premiership player for the Hawks, Grant Birchall. Kate spent a week at Hawthorn this year and through his AFL AIS Academy scholarship, and watched Birchall play and thought, that's sort of how I want to play. He moves through traffic quite well, and yeah, he's got a bit of class to him, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's a top 5 pick come next week.
Sure, the Hawks would love to get him, but no chance.
Don't think so. No, I don't think so, back in the 20s.
All right, well, let's go through to the top 5 picks now. And those that have followed your form throughout this year, Cal, will be pretty familiar with these names, but talk us through them once again.
Absolutely. We'll go from 5 to 1 for this one. Luke McDonald, half-back midfielder. Obviously, his father, Donald, played for North Melbourne. There's football manager there as well, Donald. He's set with the Roos at pick 8. So they've got a bargain there. He's in the top 5 picks of this draft, I believe. James Aish, another player with some football royalty under his skin over in South Australia, midfielder from over there. Josh Kelly's the best pure midfielder in the draft, I think, number 3. Tom Boyd's the best player in the draft, a key forward, powerful guy who's been number 1 all year. Jack Billings is one, though, that I think is the second best player in the draft and might become the best player in the future, half-forward midfielder. He'll become more of a midfielder as his footy progresses. At the moment, though, he's probably best placed as a half-forward. He kicks goals. In all the big games that Jack's played over the last 2 years, he's played really well. He loves the big moments. He's got elite foot skills on both sides of his body. He's a great mark overhead. And he's just got gameplay and this game sense that you just can't teach. I think that's going to be one of the things that as soon as he starts playing AFL footy, you'll be able to see that he knows and belongs out there. So Jack's a really talented guy, and I expect him to be taken in the top 3 or 4 picks next week. I don't think it'll be pick 2. I think that's probably set in stone at GWS that it's going to be Josh Kelly. But I believe that long term, I think Jack might just get the edge.
So we'll have a look at the draft order now and have a little bit of a look at how that pans out. And you're saying Tom Boyd and Josh Kelly at 1 and 2. So your number 2 ranked player, Jack Billings, you think the Saints would be silly to overlook him at 3, no doubt?
I think he'd be pretty good at the Saints, yeah. He's obviously a Melbourne boy, so he'd be fit in pretty well there. But any of those guys in 3 to 5 sort of range are all up for grabs. There's Aish, Scharenberg, Kolajasny. Bontempelli's coming in. There's a bit of talk about him and the Bulldogs at pick 4. Collingwood obviously hold the 2 picks in the top 10, which makes things pretty interesting. We go over the page, and obviously West Coast have been linked quite heavily with Dom Sheed. Richmond will probably get Ben Lennon or one of these guys that falls through, which would be a coup for them. Carlton, GWS, the Swans, all up for grabs there. So the Saints have got those 2 picks at the end of the first round. They've got those 2 selections. So it'd be really interesting to see if they go for midfielders there or if they chuck in a tall a little bit earlier than some might suspect.
Now, next Wednesday, we'll have your Phantom Form Guide up on the website the day before the draft. How much will it change, do you think, between now and then?
Yeah, there's heaps of change to play out. I think over the weekend we'll get a better sense of where players are going to be actually ending up. I think clubs are still making that final call. So when you speak to clubs, they're still up in the air, and that makes it a little bit hard for us to sort of judge where the rest of the pack's going to fall. So it really is a domino effect, because if one falls in place, then the next one can, and then the ones after that can as well. So the first 10 to 12 picks or players are pretty easy to select, and who they're going to be, it's just a matter of putting them in order.
All right, Cal, well, good luck as you continue to work the phones over the coming days to get that form guide right. Make sure you don't miss it next Wednesday. It'll be Cal's top 30.
Yes.
All right, so top 30. And then, of course, on Thursday, we will have full coverage from the NAB AFL draft on the Gold Coast as the next generation of stars join their new clubs. Make sure you don't miss it. For now, that's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching.